Well, hello, everybody. It's been a while. I was going to do this a little sooner, but I did not because I needed to get a haircut so I look more human again, which hopefully I do look. Well, I built another one. This one, kind of an interesting, is a Quan Guan 1/32nd scale Spitfire. It would be Spitfire, an early version Spitfire, which would be either a Mark 1, Mark 2, or a Mark 5B. And I'll explain the difference between all of them. Let me show the booklet. So again, this was another Timu. This company, Quan Guan, and this other company, 1260. 1260, if you go on Amazon or eBay, you might see their products. They make tanks. They just came out with a Pershing and a Sherman, or it's on its way. It's not out yet. But back to this Spitfire. It has retractable landing gear. You retract them down. There you go. And they actually work. They have shock absorbers, just like the two Russian fighters. So if you put it on a wet or slippery surface, they're going to retract on the way to the plane. But I'll give you some more close ups. Oh, and you can do this with this. Check this out. The actual Spitfire, that's where the canopy was when they weren't flying. And this piece of glass canopy was called a blown or Malcolm hood. Historical specs. 1936 is when the first prototype came out. They started to fly them. They had a different canopy, a little bit different engine. This one here would have one of three. It would have either a Merlin 1, a Merlin 2, or the Merlin 45. And I will go through technical things, basically the different horsepower. The Merlin 1 had a 1,030 horsepower engine. The Merlin 2, a 1,135 horsepower, up to the Merlin 45, which is in the Mark VB, 5B, V because 5 in Roman, 1,470 horsepower. Now, these engines are very similar in displacement. You do some tweaking of the carburation system. You up the octane. Mostly flew like I think an 87 octane, if you could believe that, and they boosted the octane up over 100 octane to make them get more power out of the engine. Just like I said in a similar video, I usually run my Equinox that I drive on either premium or mid range. You put higher octane fuel, usually it'll boost the horsepower and compression a bit, and actually it'll burn cleaner and make the engine run a little bit better. But going back to this, they did that to tweak this engine. Now, the basic one would have had eight 303-inch Browning machine guns, which are 30 caliber machine guns, .303 inch in British. None. Way of explaining. It would have been right as you see them here. Let me see. Oh, right there. Okay. That would have been one, two, three, four. You see the four spots there. Now, the largest piece on here, which would be, this is awkward. This is a 20 millimeter cannon. I didn't make it be one of the 30 cal machine guns because I basically wanted to make this into a Mark 5B. And they had a bigger cannon barrel. You have multiple gun barrels. You could put whatever you would like on here, whatever suits your fancy, basically. And I want to set it up like a Mark 5B. So it would eliminate these two outer guns you see there and here. You'd have the two inboard machine guns, and then right next to it, the 20 millimeter cannon. The machine guns would have been the same. The 303-inch 30 caliber Browning, which is basically rifle caliber, and the cannon are Hispano Suiza 20 millimeter cannon. Hispano Suiza was a Swiss Spanish company, and they did manufacturing in France, and that's where the 20 millimeter gun came out of. They made them in France and were building them in other places, and the Brits put them in their planes because the 303-inch machine guns just didn't have a lot of power. Um, Shooting at another plane with these smaller caliber machine guns would be kind of like hurtling a bunch of, I don't know, bees at somebody. Just hopefully one of them hits and then takes it down. Using the 20 millimeter cannon, the longer barrel guns here, I apologize. Ooh, there we go. You were shooting a 20 millimeter shell, which is bigger than a large heavy caliber machine gun, and the shells explode when they hit. By doing that, I mean, they put them in some of the Mark 1 Spitfires and Mark 2s as a test for shooting bombers down, because they had an issue during the Battle of Britain where the Germans are bombing during the day and bombing in the evening, and they wanted to set some of these Spitfires up to intercept and shoot bombers down. The Hawker Hurricane did most of that, and a lot of the grunt fighting. The Spitfire was basically a new plane. I mean, it flew over the evacuation from Dunkirk. I think it was the first time they saw it in France. I don't think it was based in France. They were flying from England, their new plane. And then right after the evacuation, the Battle of France ending and the Battle of Britain began, you would see more Spitfires. They started to produce more of them. And this basically was state of the art 1940 when the Battle of Britain started. I'll go into another video about that later because you'd have to see the ME-109 and the Heinkel 111s that the Spitfires went up against. They do not have a model of a Hawker Hurricane. I apologize, I really can't show you one, but I do have a few Spitfires. I have a Kobe Spitfire Mark 5B, which is basically a Spitfire Mark 9 because it's got a different engine setup. It has a Merlin 60 series, which different animal, but right now we're going to go with early Spitfire, which is here. You'll notice the engine exhaust stubs. This is a V12 engine. Each one of these would have 2-cylinder exhaust things popping off, so for a total of 6 cylinders per side in a V configuration, hence V12. This engine was a single stage 2-speed supercharger, meaning higher up altitude it started to lose a little bit of density and the ability to be really quick. That would be changing later with the 60 series Merlin engines, which one of those engines wound up going in a P-51 Mustang. But once again, let's stick with this because this is what I built. Top speed on this plane, the Mark 1, with the basic 1,030 horsepower engine, was 362 miles an hour. I have a 1/18 scale version of a Mark 1. Maybe I'll show you a video of that, and you can see in detail, tiny details of this plane. But for now, and the scale that we're doing, and because these are brick models, this is a very good model and a good representation of what a Spitfire was. And basically, you could kind of see the lines are very clean. It was based off of a racing seaplane. Those are popular in the 1920s, and the designer of the Spitfire, Reginald Mitchell, designed those seaplanes, and the Royal Air Force wanted them Supermarine to come up and design a fighter plane, and hence the Spitfire. These are the ones that would serve in Battle of Britain. They had 830 caliber machine guns, and some of them had the 20 millimeters because they were testing them. The 20 millimeter did not come out as a main armament until the Mark 5B, which looks exactly like this, so that's why I have these in here, so I can do some multiple kind of explanation. This plane is extremely maneuverable, and in a dogfight against the German planes, and it is slightly faster than the German planes, 350 something for a ME-109 versus 362 in here. The pilot had a good rung of his plane in control. The Spitfire would be the one coming out ahead. And also the Spitfire was flying over its home turf, so fuel range wasn't much of a consideration as with the ME-109. The Spitfire could stay up long, and after dogfighting with the ME-109s and the ME-109s to return to France because of fuel, the Spitfires could give them chase and shoot more of them down, and that's where the Spitfire became super strong as far as a air superiority fighter, basically, because these were all radar guided by air controllers in England to intercept bombers and fighters, and the Spitfires mostly tangled with the fighters because the Hurricane wasn't as fast, very maneuverable, but the Hurricane's strength was chasing down bombers and knocking them out of the sky with a high-powered fire rate of its 830 caliber 303-inch machine guns. But for our own thing here, this plane here would wind up becoming the main plane, the Spitfire. It would go on, it would be modified, they would be put different kinds of engines, different kind of fuel arrangements with the engines, but the basic body style with the elliptical wings remain with all of them except for the clip wing versions. But those are later versions, and right now we're doing this. So I said from about 1940 through 1941, early part of 1942, this type of a Spitfire with a basic engine, the early Merlin engine, was it. The Mark 5B, which is the one with the cannon, the one I was explaining, has a three-bladed propeller like this. Top speed on that one was like 371 miles an hour. 1,470 horsepower, but the problem with the Mark 5B was a Focke-Wulf FW190, which was faster and actually could outturn this plane, which needed more power. And that would be a 60 series Merlin, which would be in the Mark 9, which would be the one that would make the Spitfire dominant over German planes from that way on, because they would keep updating it and modifying it. But once again, back to these. These were the most numerous. You had British pilots flying them. You had Polish pilots, Czech pilots, French pilots, American pilots, Canadian, Australian. They all loved and used this plane very well in 1940 through 1941 with it. Like I said, when the FW190 came out in late 41, this one, the Mark 5B, had an issue with it. But overall, it was a beautiful plane. This model was difficult for one point. No problems with the quality of the bricks and stuff. It's just, the way all these babies are. A lot of small pieces that became sub-assemblies, and the sub-assemblies go together. So you spend a lot of time putting little things together that become larger things, which become even larger things when you do your assembly of the plane, which led to a long time. Stickers are okay. I don't like stickers. I prefer having what you may call it, pad printed, but a nice model. Very nice. I was very pleased with it. I got this off of Temu. I think I paid $24 for it. I didn't pay $50. These usually go for around $50. eBay, Amazon. So I did pay less money. And like I said, it doesn't come in a box. It comes in a bag. You get all the parts in bags. And you get this. Nice instruction, but the instructions are actually pretty good. I think in some respects are similar to, and in some ways superior to, Lego, because I do Lego builds for cars. But this is it, and this is how it wound up. And there were 682 parts, I believe. I'll give you a shot at the landing gear one more time, and let's see if they come down without popping out, because the landing gear is a bit frail, but not unmanageable. And yeah, there we go. There we go. So this is listed as a Spitfire F MK1A, but like I said, this Mark 1 through the Mark 5B all kind of look the same, with the exception of the cannon and different ornaments that were in the wings. Oh, one more thing before I leave. The Spitfires were done by wings. They had different wings that had different arm setups. They had a wing that had 220 millimeter cannon, 150 cal machine gun in each wing. You had this one with a 430 cal, two in each wing plus the cannon. And then you had one with just 8 303-inch machine guns. So as the war progressed, you would go with the ones that would have either the 430 cals and the 220 millimeters, or the 220 millimeters and the 250 cals. So basically, that's a wrap with this one. I hope you like this one. And if you are looking to build one of these, you may want to start with this one. The Russian fighters are nice, but this is a very detailed and pretty good representation of this early Spitfire. And I was very pleased with it, and I hope everybody else was. There will be more videos coming. I have one coming about Southwest Pacific Warfare, Air Warfare 1943, so it'd be Corsairs and Zeros, and hopefully that one will work well, because I'm using one of my 21st century toy ones, and like I said, they're frail and sometimes parts can kind of fall off. Hopefully that won't happen, but that will be the next video. And then I have a few other things that I'm going to build, but I will keep these coming out as quickly as I can. Thank you for watching once again, and hope everybody enjoyed this, and more will be coming.